SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
I'm Steve Azar, and I'm on the other side of the microphone, meaning I'm asking the questions this time, and oh, have mercy for the airwaves. I spent 20 years in Music City, wrote and made some hits, traveled the world, and then moved my family back to the birthplace of American music and where the magnolia trees prosper. And now every time I put my feet on Mississippi soil, when I'm off the road, well, I'm at peace. On this show, it's all about hearing the stories straight from the mouths of the friends I've made along the way, their journey to success. Heck, there might be someone on, I don't even know, but you know how us Mississippi types are. We tend to take well to new company. In a Mississippi Minute, all 60 of them. I'm Steve Azar.
It's just like that muddy river, moving slow. Ain't no worries, it's how life goes, baby. In a Mississippi Minute.
Time for another In a Mississippi Minute. Always grateful getting to listen. Excited about my guest today. It's round 8 with him, and I've been doing this into my 8th year, so he averages one time a year, which doesn't seem like enough. I'll get to him in a second. My folks over there, fine folks over there in Macon, Mississippi, you know what they do? They produce the best catfish. Go to superiorcatfish.com and visit Mississippi.org. Does that sound like a song? Because we're the birthplace of America's music, and the whole world knows it now. Hallelujah, Mississippi. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. All right. Like I said, round 8. Over these years, I've gotten to become a dear friend. I hope the feeling is mutual, and a fan of this man, a former president and publisher of 3 Gulf Coast newspapers in his heyday, which, by the way, is now, again, he's had 50 heydays. The Sun, Herald, the Press Register, and the Times-Picayune. He ran the show, award-winning publisher, many years. He took a break for a minute to be with his family and hang out in the great outdoors, which he still gets to do on his Gulf Coast and in the hills of Mississippi when it's hunting season. And now he rocks his very, very popular daily radio show on SuperTalk, the Ricky Matthews Show, and also has once a week the powerful voice for our Mississippi outdoors, and that is on SuperTalk as well, SuperTalk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews. That's my guest. I just gave him away twice, so let's get to it right now and dig in a little deeper with my buddy, Ricky Matthews.
How you doing, Steve?
I love it every time Alex reaches out and says, or Cammie, it's Cammie in your case, and says, Ricky wants to see if you can do the show, and that always opens the door for you having to reciprocate.
I love doing it. I love being on your show. It gives you and me a chance to spend some time together and talk about our passions in life.
Hey, I had this other happen the other day, and you and I have discussed this. I was in Nashville at a wedding, friends of ours, and I was in Ridgeland, and Bud, there's some folks there. Bud, shout out to you. Bill, shout out to you guys that were very complimentary of my radio show. They said, we never miss it. And it's awesome being in an elevator in Oxford, being in Starkville, being in Hattiesburg, being on the coast. Nobody's ever talking about music anymore. They're always going like, hey, we love your radio show. And I'm going like, that means so much to me. How much, and thank you guys for that. It keeps us going. What about you? Do you get that a lot now? And would you have ever thought that this would be the topic of discussion and a conversation?
Well, it's fun. I think I mentioned to you before, it's fun for me because when I was publisher, let's say, let's just stick with the Sun Herald for now. When I was publisher of the Sun Herald, I was out there a lot. I was in the community a lot. I was leading organizations outside of the Sun Herald, heavily involved in the recovery effort after Hurricane Katrina. So
sure.
I knew a lot of people. A lot of people knew me. But when I left the Sun Herald in 2009 to work for the largest privately owned media company in America, and then retired in 2016, a lot of those people I had lost touch with. And then when I started this show, what's interesting is I don't get out very often. I leave the house rarely. But when I do, it is amazing to me the people that come up to me. And we get the opportunity once or twice a year to do a live remote. And where the live remote involves people being around, I'll invite people to stop by and say hello. People will just come by and say hello and talk about this and that. The outdoor show, I get a lot of feedback from the outdoor show, texts from people, emails, that kind of stuff. But it's good. I said this before, Steve, and I know you do feel the same way doing your show, is that when we're having these conversations, we're genuinely enjoying having these conversations. Sometimes it's easy to forget that somebody's actually listening, because we're getting so much out of them, right?
People are listening. I didn't. I know they are, but we do forget. I never thought about that actually.
Yeah, you just forget, especially me, because I'm in the studio at my house, and when I leave here from doing this, I'm gonna go out and cut the yard, and that's kind of my life. And I would go places in the boat, and we might occasionally go out and eat somewhere, but for the most part, we don't leave here. I'll go to the Delta a lot, as you well know.
Hunt. I know. I love in the hills up there in Carrollton area.
Well, one of our farms actually involved being in the hills. We actually have moved over.
That's right.
We had 3 farms. One's in Itabena, one's in Chula, and one's in Menor City. And we used to actually have a place in that general area of Carrollton, but we gave it up and traded for some better land. And it's I love the Mississippi Delta.
I know.
I say it every time we're together. For me, as you know, hunting is it's not about taking the game. It's about the experience surrounding it. The opportunity to be there with family and friends and get to spend time with my farmer friends. And the Mississippi Delta is so much different than the coast. But what's in the heart and soul of us is similar. But
Sure.
it's the landscapes are so different. It's just that farming culture. It's just so different. I love being there.
I don't think I've ever talked to you about you growing up, and maybe I did in the first series. But forgive me if it's a rerun, but I know it's been a long time. I don't know the little young Ricky Matthews, and then what led you to publishing?
Well, what's interesting, I'll tell a story that I didn't tell when I was growing up. In fact, I kept what I'm about to tell you a secret all the way through my entire career, and I did not speak about it until I started doing the show. And that was that I had this dyslexia growing up, and I had some people from the Dyslexia Association on my show about 2 years ago, and during that show, I admitted to them that I had dyslexia. But at the time that I had it in the 1960s, we didn't know what it was. It was a nameless thing. Now, if you go and do the research, there was a name of a thing called dyslexia, but the schools didn't know about it. No. And it wasn't part of our conversation. And man, did I struggle mightily. And, my mother would read to me at night, and her answer and my father's answer and the teacher's answers were always try harder. And that wasn't,
suck it
that doesn't necessarily help.
It's not the remedy.
No, it's not. It's not. But, I had a couple of teachers, and I write about this extensively in the book that I'm writing, Finding Hope.
Which we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. Lessons from life's hardest moments. But I write about it. And people who grew up with me will be surprised at how deeply impacted I was by it. But I came through it. I don't know how I came through it. I had a couple of teachers that saw something special in me. As I mentioned to you before, I think drumming. I read studies today, and there's clear evidence that music helps dyslexia, people with dyslexia, rewire some neurons and all of that. But I got introduced to drumming in the 5th grade. And it wasn't long because I had a really rough time up until 5th grade. And then after I started drumming and getting involved in music, my whole trajectory started to change, and I started to learn how to learn. And I didn't read my first full book until I was nearly a senior in high school. It was Call of the Wild. It was a great accomplishment. But by the time I got out of high school, man, I had figured it out. I figured out how to read and to learn. I always saw things in pictures, Steve, and people with dyslexia will explain this to you, but I saw things in pictures. I remembered things in pictures. And even today when I read, if I'm looking at words on a page, even today, I have to see every word. I can read, and even when I read out loud, sometimes I'll stumble because my mind is wanting to race forward, and I have to see the word to be able to understand the word. So there's an extra step there for me.
Wow.
Throughout my whole career, I came to just appreciate. I didn't even think of my dyslexia. But I realized that I had to be a very legitimate reader, and that when I read out loud, I had to be careful. Yeah.
Okay, no, I love it. I love it. I'm Kyle right now with the clock on you. Haha, that's
Yeah.
fun. Hey, Kyle, I
Yeah.
hope you're listening. Your producer. All right, you were dyslexia before dyslexia wasn't cool, like the song says. And no, I understood it. Second of all, what you talk about when you see these things, we call it furniture in songs. All those things you can see and touch and feel. We're going to take a quick break. We're with Ricky Matthews of the Ricky Matthews Show, Super Talk Outdoors. You hear him all the time on Super Talk. What a career he has had, and we're blessed to have him on the Super Talk Network, and I'm blessed to call him a friend. Superior Catfish, always blessed. Thank you guys over there in Macon, Mississippi. There's catfish. There's Superior Catfish. Go to superiorcatfish.com and visit Mississippi.org. My man is hanging out on the Gulf Coast looking out at that beautiful water. We'll be right back.
I know I shouldn't, but I will. I can't hide the way I feel. Tell me this time that it's real. How
You can now watch Super Talk Mississippi on your YouTube, Roku, and on Amazon Fire devices. Plus, you can now watch Super Talk TV live on C Spire TV Channel 70. Just go to supertalk.fm/connect to find out more.
See website for details. Bill's
Hey, folks, time for the second section. I call it, this is like a series on Netflix right now. I'm having with my guest today, Ricky Matthews of the Ricky Matthews Show and Super Talk Outdoors and everything else, and about to become a world-renowned author. I can't wait to talk to him about his book. I've got a song called Hope that I never put out. That's really one of the better songs I've written in my life. I don't know why. Maybe I will now because of the title of his book. We're going to get to that in this segment. But before we do, Superior Catfish allows folks like me and Ricky to have these wonderful conversations. You know, you can go to Tim's in Macon, Piggly Wiggly in Union, Oktibbeha County. Ricky, do you not love saying the word Oktibbeha? I like it.
Yeah, for sure.
County Co-op, Clay County Co-op, Ocean Fresh and Tupelo. It's all there. Go to superiorcatfish.com and visit Mississippi.org. Plan a road trip with your loved ones. We're talking on the Gulf Coast right now. Ocean Springs, spectacular. And making a big splash, especially for me. I love to go there, eat at a restaurant called Vestige. It's insane. And then what our man Austin Sumrall over there at in Biloxi at the
White Pillar.
Just ridiculous chef. Ridiculous chefs. They're so good. All right, Ricky, let's talk about your book. And I want you to, and then I want to ask you a question about Camille versus Katrina, because you were around for both of them. Obviously, bookended in life with a lot that went on in between. But let's talk about the book first.
Yeah. Well, so, you know, let me connect it back to the discussion we were having about dyslexia.
Okay.
When I finally got back to school, when I finally learned how to learn, I was a human sponge after that. And I went to University of Alabama, Birmingham, to paramedic school, learned that kind of death and dying wasn't for me. Got an MBA from Southern Miss, did an internship at the Sun Herald, and the rest is history. And became publisher there in 2001. But throughout that experience, the experience of growing up with a learning challenge, and then what I saw as a paramedic, the death and dying that I saw as a paramedic, and then, just being a publisher and being able to watch challenges in a community, and then, of course, Katrina and the experience of Katrina, all of those things kind of led to my book. Now, I started writing lessons after Hurricane Katrina, things that I was observing, just a bunch of powerful lessons. And
what do you mean by that? You started writing them.
Like as you know, my wife and I and our family were nearly killed by the storm. We stayed on Biloxi's back bay and had 10-foot waves hitting the house and whatever. And in the aftermath of that, I sat down. I said, man, I want to capture what I'm feeling. And I wrote the first lesson to this book. There are 26 lessons. And this lesson is, love your family, make them your anchor. And it talks about how when we too often are reminded of the need to love our family and be connected with our family when there's a storm. And I don't mean a Katrina. It could be any of life storms that occur. That's when we're reminded of the importance of family. And the kind of the lesson is a reminder that you should not lose that appreciation and do appreciation for that before the storm, so that when the storm hits, you've got them to be surrounded around you. And I wrote a full lesson around that. And the second one I learned, I could go on. I'm not going to share them all now, but the never judge a book by its cover is one of the lessons. It was a very powerful lesson, actually, about how we move through life too fast, and we try to sum people up based on our first observations and so on. And then the type A personalities tend to give us the best impressions they want us to see of them. And the type Bs are just kind of doing their thing, not caring whether you notice them or not. And what Katrina taught us was that in the aftermath of Katrina, people you would have never expected to step up did, and people that you would have expected to step up, some of them didn't. And to me, what it was is a powerful lesson about how we move through life too fast, and we don't understand the essence of who we are. And it urges people to slow down and get the gift of the people that is around us. And so I wrote a detailed lesson about it. But the book, Steve, ended up becoming more than Katrina. It really became more about life storms and life challenges. Some of what I experienced as a paramedic, of course, some of what I experienced growing up with dyslexia, and of course the Katrina experience. My family and I, we had to evacuate our home during Hurricane Camille in 1969. But it's those experiences. But then, man, the work that I've done, as a publisher, and all these people that I've come in contact with that have done incredible things in the community. And then this show, the 1,500 plus shows I've done, and the Ricky Matthews Show, and all these great people that I've connected with, and what I've learned about resilience from them. So it took on this much broader meaning. And it started as about Katrina, and it's turned into finding hope, period, in life. And it's been an amazing process.
100% nonfiction.
100% about my own experiences and the people
Total
that I've come in contact with. Yeah. Well, it's not. It's not a telling of my story. It is significant moments in my story, but it's not biographical in that way.
Okay.
But it's all these other people that I've come in contact with along the way, and what I've learned from them. And it's an amazing. Finished the book. We're in the editing process now.
I was trying to find the word biographical, but I couldn't say it. I couldn't say it. I was looking at it and I was like, how do you say that word in my mind? That's what's wrong with me. I don't know what I've got, but I've got something very weird that happens when I'm trying to see a word that I haven't said in a while. And I'm going like, how do you say that word? All right. So Ricky, first of all, it sounds like you're being pretty meticulous, and with the conversations I've had at you about this book. So what's this process like for you? Especially, you're the publisher. You come from this world of understanding that, but now the content is yours. So what's that like?
Well, it's been crazy, Steve. I've cried a lot, at least early in the process, kind of nailing them down. I relived finding my father dead after becoming a paramedic and not having the opportunity to save him. And I had an incredible experience after I became publisher of the Sun Herald at Ground Zero in New York City. We were at St. Paul's Cathedral, right, adjacent to the Ground Zero down there in Lower Manhattan. My sister was with me, and a man collapsed. And I did CPR on him with a young man from Verizon. We did CPR on him for 20 minutes, and he lived.
Oh, my gosh.
There's a great story that surrounds that and what he saw during that time. And because I did CPR, I had the opportunity to go inside St. Paul's Cathedral afterwards. And, of course, at the time, St. Paul's was a place where only the rescue workers and those who were involved in helping at Ground Zero were. So it was a lot of first responders and others. And I got a chance to go in there and clean up after the CPR. I did mouth to mouth while the Verizon technician did chest compressions. And man, it was like being in a prayer. It was the most profound thing I've ever experienced in my life. So when you experience things like that, writing about it. I decided to write about it, and the faith and the story that Art, the guy we did CPR, and what he told about seeing us and feeling peace, this afterlife experience that I read a lot about after I was a paramedic. And I was, just recalled all those times.
You know what's interesting to me? Because let's go ahead and do a break, but hold that thought. But I want to say something. Isn't it funny? You start out in your life as a paramedic and you're a first responder, and now you've actually you're in the place where only first responders are allowed in church. I mean, does that come full circle in the strangest way that you can't make it up?
I know
it's part of this journey that you've been on. And by the way, Ricky, the young Ricky, you're going to save this guy in New York one day after these our Twin Towers fall. All this thing, you just can't even, it can't fathom all of this as we've gotten to see it unfold and feel it and hurt and all that. Let's take a quick break. Ricky Matthews is my guest today. He set me straight a minute ago, by the way. He wasn't through telling the story. See, that's why he's better at this than me. Speaking of better, Superior Catfish, there's nothing better. Go to superiorcatfish.com. Ricky can't make a transition like that. That's a songwriter to me that just did that. And visit Mississippi.org. I love you guys. Plan a road trip to your Mississippi. We'll be right back.
Doing it right. I saw the light. Sun came up in the middle of the night. Been doing it wrong for so long. I sure ought to know what it finally feels like. I sure ought to know what it finally feels like. I sure ought to know what it finally feels like. You've been doing it. I'm doing it right. I'm still trying to find my way.
Up to $20,000 available for first-time home buyers. Hey folks, Steve Azar here. Helping is the heart of our friends at Guarantee Bank. They offer programs like the Home Buyer Equity Leverage Partnership Grant that can assist qualified first-time home buyers with up to $20,000 towards down payment and provide home ownership counseling to empower you on your journey. These funds are first come, first served. Learn more about this program and to apply now, go to gbtonline.com. Guarantee Bank, member FDIC.
Listen and watch all your favorite SuperTalk Mississippi shows live and on demand. Listen to tons of music. Plus, get the latest breaking news from across the state with the SuperTalk Mississippi app. The SuperTalk Mississippi app. Download the SuperTalk app on your iPhone or Android device now for free. Just search SuperTalk Mississippi in your app store on your mobile device to get everything Mississippi all in one place. The SuperTalk Mississippi app. Get it now.
From the SeabrookPaint.com.
In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Steve Azar here with the fabulous Ricky Matthews Show and SuperTalk Outdoors all the time. He's got his sidekick, Cal. I don't have a Cal. I wish I had a Cal, if you're listening. I wish I had. But anyway, besides that, Superior Catfish, I got them, and they got me. I got Superior Catfish, baby. Sorry, Sonny and Cher. SuperiorCatfish.com waiting on you. You go to store.superiorcatfish.com, and it comes to you delivered the next day. Are you kidding? And visit Mississippi.org. I mean, come on. I always talk about road trips you want to plan. Plan them. Celebrate your Mississippi. If you're in Mississippi, you hadn't been to a place in a long time within your beautiful states, state lines, make a trip with your loved ones. If you don't have a loved one, you'll find a loved one somewhere else in Mississippi, because that's how we roll. All right, Ricky Matthews is my guest today. Off air, we just talked a little bit about something he's going to share with his paramedics days. Ricky, what do you got?
So what's one of the lessons in this book is about telling your story and the importance of telling the story. And you on your show and me on my show, we have the opportunity to have conversations with people who have such incredible stories to tell. And there's so much to learn from them about setting goals and having hope and overcoming adversity and all the things that we learn about. I was in paramedic school and I had an RN that was a teacher there that was teaching several of the courses in that school. And her name was Barbara. And what brought her there was her son had been killed in a baseball accident. A baseball hit him in the chest. And there's a doctors who are listening know what happened, but what they believe happened is that he got hit at that exact moment. And when you have in the EKG, you see an area that's their T wave where the heart is recovering, getting ready for the next beat. And if you get hit on the peak of the T wave, it can cause ventricular fibrillation and it cause your heart to stop. Okay, so he got hit in the chest, and that's what they think happened, that it kind of hit at the exact moment and it stopped his heart, and there wasn't care nearby. And one of the things she taught us was, she told us that story, and she said, don't be satisfied with getting 98s on a test. That 2% you don't get right might be something a family needs in the middle of the night. And so to me, coming out of high school and being this human sponge that I was, it really touched me. And I was absolute a human sponge in paramedic school and on into pre-med and so on. So to fast forward, when I had to do mouth to mouth on my granddaughter Mila a couple of years ago, thank God she lived. Her mother, who was with us, and my mother and my wife Ann and my daughter Tori, all of them with us. But she stopped breathing. She had a strange concoction of illnesses that stopped her breathing. And I did mouth to mouth on her and was able to bring her back. And what I said in the story that talks about telling your story, I don't know where Barbara is today. I don't even know her last name, but if I could tell her, what I would tell her is that story she told me in 1976 saved my granddaughter in 2023. That's how powerful storytelling can be. Wow. And I really believe that. So it's interesting how all these chapters of your life come together. And I've had so many, I really believe there's been divine intervention many, 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 many times in my life. There are too many coincidences like that. But I'm glad I'm able to tell the story.
I've had, that's interesting. You talk about your past and the people that impacted. I had this one, we had a priest named Father Gene who was helping a bunch of youth. One day we're in seventh or eighth grade. I can't remember exactly what grade we're in. We just know he doesn't show up, and they had killed him the night before. And all of a sudden we're we really like Father Gene. And actually he was one of my Uncle Joe who had died of cancer. The last verse of Waiting on Joe, the train is the metaphor for the cancer. It's a long story. Morgan explains it the best he can, but in my song, in the video. But with that said, they died around the same age, which was really, really interesting. And then comes this guy named Brother Chris Myers. He wasn't a priest yet. He was in the seminary. Comes to take his place. And he was so influential on me sort of taking over the music at Mass and writing. He heard my songs I was writing, and he says, "You're going to write a song for meditation and all this and all that." And those songs ended up being the ones that got me my first publishing deals after writing another 200-300 songs before then. And I was always playing everybody, trying to get a deal in New York and LA and at Nashville and everything, playing them my latest and whatever I thought was the greatest, which wasn't, by the way. And then one guy in Nashville who had already turned me down, I just knocked on his door. His name's Rick Sanchek. His dad was one of the founders of BMI. And he says, and he ran Atlantic Records back in the day and all that in Nashville with Willie and all that. And he said, "I've already said no to you." And I go, "I know, but I just wanted to see if I could come play for you." And he goes, "Well, you don't look like your pictures. Maybe you don't sound like the songs you sent me." That's what he said to me. And I went, "I don't know how to take that, but I'm in the door. I'm doing it." So I play him the same stupid songs that he said no to. That's how dumb I am, right? thinking that would do it. And he just said no. And right when I was putting my guitar up, he goes, "Hey, can you play me the first songs you ever wrote?" And I went, "What?" He goes, "Can you play me?" So I went back to my man, Chris Myers, who pushed me, my teachers, Miss McGaw and Miss Hammond, these English professors, literature and all that pushed me. And they were involved too in my head. Sister Nilda, another nun that was fantastic to my career, and Johnny Lee, who raised me. All these people came together at that one moment with these songs. And somehow I remembered the songs. How am I going to remember the ones? I swear I didn't miss a beat. And there's no way that would go like that. So it was intervention happening. And he looked at me and he goes, "You're a songwriter." And I went, "What? No. And I used to play those for Johnny Lee and all that on the bad guitars, out of tune and all that. But Ricky, it all came back to the beginning. And then he goes, "Play me another." And I remembered another one. And these were those ones. And now I was 11, 12, 13, and 14 years old. And those are the ones that got me a deal at 27. Not the ones I wrote at 26 or 25 or 24 or 23 or whatever. And that changed my life. And then I went to see John Prine's guy, Albanetta, and I said, "What the hell? I'll play the same songs for him." And he looked at me. You know what he said? "You're a songwriter. I've got to go on vacation in 2 weeks. I want to sign you, and John's going to be in the office, and I want you to meet him." And 2 weeks later, he goes, "Do not do anything." Well, I'd waited for that long. When I got back, he called me and he goes, "I'm back. I want to talk to you. John's coming in." I said, "I've already signed a deal." He said, "You couldn't wait 2 weeks?" I said, "I couldn't wait 2 minutes. I've been wanting this since I was 12. And so we became dear friends. He would later help me with my label and mentor me and tell me what I needed to be doing. And that's impacted me today. We all became good friends and all that. But I love you talking about that. It's funny. It reminds me of those moments and how could that matter back then and how it changed your life. Changed my life.
What's interesting about it for me is sitting down. I love hearing those stories that you just told because as a songwriter, you have to find that headspace often, whatever that is. And you have to be in the moment. And the more in the moment you are, the better your music's going to be. And it's interesting that as a young kid, some of your best music was because it might be that at that time you were more in touch with your feelings. You were more in touch with who you were, and you didn't have any of the clutter of life in your way yet.
That's really interesting. Yeah. That's really interesting. Well, either way, we were being nurtured and we were impacted and somehow had the ability, thank God, to be able to articulate it, even though we didn't know what exactly we were doing. Let's take a quick break. Ricky Matthews is my guest today. He always turns my show into his show. I end up telling more stories because we're buddies, and this is what happens. And we're blessed to get to talk to each other. And I've been just so grateful for Team Super Talk, as I know Ricky is, but these are the relationships in life that I was missing before it all began. Superior Catfish, I love my relationship with them. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and spending the time helping me put this show on superiorcatfish.com and visit Mississippi.org. We got big plans. Hopefully, we're going to be able to announce soon that we're going to work on this crazy project together. Stand by on that and pray for it. I'm Steve Azar.
Up to $20,000 available for first-time home buyers. Hey folks, Steve Azar here. Helping is the heart of our friends at Guarantee Bank. They offer programs like the Home Buyer Equity Leverage Partnership Grant that can assist qualified first-time home buyers with up to $20,000 towards down payment and provide home ownership counseling to empower you on your journey. These funds are first come, first served. Learn more about this program and to apply now, go to gbtonline.com. Guarantee Bank, member FDIC.
Listen and watch all your favorite SuperTalk Mississippi shows live and on demand. Listen to tons of music. Plus, get the latest breaking news from across the state with the SuperTalk Mississippi app. The SuperTalk Mississippi app. Download the SuperTalk app on your iPhone or Android device now for free. Just search SuperTalk Mississippi in your app store on your mobile device to get everything Mississippi all in one place. The SuperTalk Mississippi app. Get it now.
Hey, this is Bob.
Let go of the rope.
In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar. Because I always feel like, once again, I'm Gilligan and he's Professor. He is the professor. Or he could be the skipper because of where he lives out there on the Gulf Coast because he can man a boat. Either way, or he could be Thurston Howell the third. But either way, I'm Gilligan, and that's the way it stands. But I'm okay with it. Visit Mississippi.org. Always okay with you visiting, planning a road trip, bringing folks into Mississippi, celebrating who we are. Are you kidding me? There's no one or no being more spectacular than our people in Mississippi, you all. And superior catfish, why would you get it from Taiwan when you can get it made in Macon, Mississippi? We're the birthplace of catfish. Come on. All right, Ricky, I want to talk about you as a little kid in your memories, whatever, looking back on Camille, and then all of a sudden, Katrina, you being a grown man and obviously impacting this book and everything else. Can you sort of take us on that whirlwind of both hurricanes, comparisons maybe, and where you were in your life and how it impacted you?
Yeah, I was just a kid when Hurricane Camille hit, but we lived in the Bayview community of Gulfport, and the water was rising across the street, trees popping all over the place as, you know, the 200-mile-an-hour gusts were coming through. And we made a decision, my dad did, and my three sisters and my mother and my dad and I. He backed up the station wagon to the front of the house, and tore ruts in the yard, going through our yard, across the street, into my neighbor's yard. They had one of those old World War II fallout shelters. People just had them back in those days. And we stayed in that, and we couldn't shut the door because the pressure was so high. But I remember it just everything about that storm was just so devastating. Hurricane, of course, for so long, it was the largest, most severe storm ever to hit the United States. Someone said, the mayor of Biloxi said after Hurricane Katrina that Camille killed more people in 2005 than it killed in 1969. And the reason why people made decisions to stay at their homes based on having survived Hurricane Camille. But the storm surge from Katrina was unimaginably large over such a vast area. Such a larger storm. Camille was a tight, compact storm that did incredible damage. But Katrina was this absolute monster. They had 10-foot storm surge at the front door of the Press Register building in Mobile and over 20 feet at my house. So people made decisions to stay at their various locations.
20 feet at your house. 20 feet.
Camille.
20 feet.
Over 20 feet. Over 20 feet.
Goodness.
With 10-foot waves on top of that.
Oh.
And we were there.
You're kidding me.
And we took the pictures. And we didn't think we were going to survive. And, there's something transformative about being in that situation. Who's
all with you? Who's with you in the house?
My wife, my 3 kids, my brother-in-law, Peter, and my mother-in-law.
So all of y'all are together. You got the whole family there. It could all been lost.
Yeah. And a friend of mine from Seattle who happened to be in town. And it would have, I have a friend of mine named Dave Dennis when we built our house, he made a very important recommendation. He said, do commercial grade stucco on the outside, do Anderson hurricane grade windows, and do at least 150 mile an hour roof. And we did a metal roof, and we didn't lose a window, man. We had 10-foot waves hitting our house, and we did not lose a window.
Come on.
And and of course, if we had lost it, it was like being in a glass bottom boat as the waves were sloshing up against our windows. Now, water came in the house, but the violence of the water stayed outside the house, and we were able to clean it up really. I mean, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage, but the fact is we survived. But it was just an incredible experience. I mean, the difference in those two storms is if you were in Pass Christian, the impact probably felt very similar. But the vastness of Hurricane Katrina, let's hope and pray we never experience anything like that.
Can I ask you a meteorology?
Yeah.
Can you be my meteorologist for a minute?
Yeah,
Besides
sure.
my shrink most of the time. Why don't we see Pacific Northwest, way up the top of the Atlantic, Maine, in those areas? Why don't we see hurricanes form like they do? What has it got to do with the heat in the water?
Yeah, well, it has to do with that for sure. The ocean temperature is critical for tropical storms to form, and so you need a surface low to form. And in order to have a surface low form, you've got to have high ocean content, high heat ocean content. and then you have to have stable air mass above and what is a high. A lot of characteristics. You have to have no wind shear, which is wind shear that happens at the higher elevations that allow a storm to grow and stack and get large, and it gets all its energy from the eye and it just spins and spins. And what happened? Camille was just small. The storm itself was small, but extremely. Think of it as a very, very large tornado. That's what Camille was. In the case of Katrina, it went through several eye wall replacements, and every time you go through an eye wall replacement, it gets larger. And at one point, Katrina was just this Category 5 monster storm. And even though it became a Category 3 before it hit, the storm surge that came with it was equivalent to a Category 5.
I can't wait to get that book. Superior Catfish can come to your home. Go to store.superiorcatfish.com. Put a note on it, say I sent you, and also visit Mississippi.org. Plan your road trip. Fall in love with your Mississippi. We are worth it. I'm Steve Azar with the great Ricky Matthews. Later on.
I'm Steve Azar. In a Mississippi Minute, all 60 of them, where you can take your sweet time.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.